Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a case that is, frankly, one of the most disturbing and just bizarre we've encountered in the source material provided to us.
Yeah, it really has a lot of strange elements.
It involves a young woman, pursuing her dreams abroad, a really calculated crime, a suspect who went to just astonishing lengths to disfigure himself,
Unbelievable
an
lengths.
international hunt for justice, and a fugitive who basically seemed to vanish into thin air for years.
Hmm.
This is our deep dive into the case of Tatsuya Ichihashi and his victim, Lindsay Hawker. And as always with the deep dive, we're not just, speculating or retelling a story from memory. We've pulled together a specific stack of sources articles, research that meticulously lay out the facts, the timeline, and the incredibly unsettling details of this case.
Yeah, the material's quite detailed.
Our mission today is to go through these sources together, not just report what they say, but really try to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge, understand the surprising twists, and just try to grasp what made this such a high-profile and utterly heartbreaking case.
And what's immediately striking, I think, from reviewing these sources is how they present this chilling narrative that isn't just about a crime and an investigation,
Right.
It raises these really fundamental questions about human behavior, the capacity for both, like targeted malice and then this extreme desperation and evasion.
And the challenges for law enforcement, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially when someone is just determined to disappear completely off the grid like he was.
So where do we begin with the story? The sources naturally start with Lindsay Hawker herself.
Hmm.
We learned she was from Coventry, England, born in 1984. She had what sounds like a really happy, stable childhood. Very academically gifted, too.
Yeah, first-class honors in biology from the University of Leeds, right, in 2006.
Exactly. And by all accounts in the material, she was just bright, incredibly nurturing, successful. But before jumping into her master's degree, she had this real hunger for adventure.
Yeah, wanting to try something new.
An appetite for trying something completely different. And that's what led her to decide to take a year out.
And that decision, according to the sources, led her to sign up with Nova, which, at the time, was Japan's largest private English school.
A big deal, right?
Yeah, it was seen as a pretty prestigious place for English teachers coming from abroad. Lindsay secured a coveted spot there.
She arrived in Tokyo in October 2006, got assigned to the Kiowa district. The sources describe her quickly finding her feet, finding both comfort and excitement.
That sounds like a great area, actually. Well-connected, near places like Akihabara
Right, the electronics district.
and Asakusa with the temples.
Hmm.
So much for her to explore, and the sources say she was really loving the experience.
Eventually, she moved a bit further east to Chiba. This move, the sources say, was basically driven by wanting cheaper rent.
Makes sense in Tokyo.
Yeah. And she ended up living with two other teachers who became close friends. But despite really embracing her time abroad, the material emphasizes she was absolutely a home bird.
Still very connected back home.
Totally. Constant contact with her family, friends, her boyfriend back in England, through calls, texts, everything. Okay, now, let's jump forward about 6 months into her stay. This is March 2007. And this is where the story takes a really strange and unsettling turn.
Right.
Lindsay had finished work. She was at Chiba Station unlocking her bike. And the sources described this man approaching her from behind saying, you are my English teacher.
Which was wrong, right. She didn't know him.
Exactly. She was immediately confused, didn't recognize him. Sure, he wasn't one of her students. She politely tried to brush him off, but he became persistent, started following her.
Following her as she's trying to leave.
Yeah, she got on her bike, trying to cycle away, but he kept pace.
Yeah.
The sources note he sped up, walking turned into jogging, then running.
Wow.
With the layout there in Chiba, it sounds like it was incredible.
And the sources confirm this man who chased her all the way back to her home was Tatsuya Ichihashi.
Right.
And when he caught up, he had this proposal, which, despite the incredibly bizarre chase, seemed simple enough at first glance.
Yeah. What was it?
He asked if she'd be interested in English lessons, suggested they meet in a cafe, offered generous hourly pay.
And Lindsay, probably sensing something wasn't right, or maybe just genuinely busy.
Yeah, the sources suggest both could be true.
She politely refused, said her schedule was full.
Okay.
He seemed to accept that, but then another strange request. He claimed he was thirsty after chasing her, asked if she'd give him a glass of water inside her apartment.
Inside her apartment, after chasing her.
Yeah. The sources describe Lindsay hesitating. She was clearly uncomfortable, but she reluctantly agreed.
Why would she do that?
Well, the material suggests she saw it as an opportunity maybe for him to see she had roommates, and more importantly for her friends to see his face, like a safety precaution.
Okay. Trying to manage a bad situation.
Ex-
And inside the apartment, while he was getting his drink, he apparently renewed the offer for lessons.
Oh, he tried again.
Yeah, and this time, the sources note, he specified the price. 3,500 yen, which was about $32 an hour back then. He really emphasized it would be strictly business. And the sources suggest this was an offer. Lindsay, well, likely felt she couldn't refuse despite the weirdness. Her job at Nova helped, sure, but extra cash is always welcome.
Especially when you're living abroad.
Exactly. Seemed like easy money. So she agreed to meet him at a coffee shop a few days later. And this interaction, agreeing after the chase and inside her home, is a crucial detail the sources highlight. How that moment of politeness was kind of exploited.
Right, right. Tatsuya was reportedly very grateful, but before leaving, he did one more thing that the sources find particularly telling, almost creepy.
What was that?
He took out a pen and some scrap paper and quickly drew a sketch of Lindsay.
A sketch?
Of her. Yeah. And then he gave her the sketch with his name and phone number written on it. Just a bizarre calling card after chasing someone home.
Wow. Okay, so who was this guy, Tatsuya Ichihashi, based on what the sources tell us?
Well, at the time, he was 28 years old, born in Gifu, grew up in Ichikawa, Chiba, came from a seemingly successful and respectable family. His father was a medical doctor, his mother a dentist.
So professional background.
Yeah. And he'd initially aimed to follow his father into medicine, which is, a pretty common path in Japan. But he failed his entrance exams.
Wow.
Ended up getting a horticulture degree from Chiba University in 2005.
Horticulture, okay.
And after graduating.
The sources state he didn't find work. He lived on a monthly allowance of 100,000 yen, about $920 from his parents.
Just living off his parents at 28.
Pretty much. But the sources also reveal what they explicitly call a dark half.
Okay.
While he didn't have previous criminal convictions, there was a significant prior allegation noted in the material, assaulting a woman during a robbery.
Whoa, what happened with that? Well, the case never went to trial. It was settled out of court. And the sources allege his father paid a substantial sum, around 1 million yen, about $10,000, to settle it.
His father paid it.
That's the allegation in the sources. And this detail, coupled with his reliance on that modest allowance, makes the offer of $35 an hour for lessons seem kind of questionable, right?
Yeah, where was this money coming from?
Exactly. The sources describe him as a loner, reclusive, rebellious, with this obsession for physical fitness, hitting the gym, cycling over 25 kilometers daily, but no apparent intention of finding actual work.
So this contrast between his family background and this alleged assault the loner lifestyle, it's a complex picture.
Definitely a key insight from the sources. So the first lesson was set for Saturday, March 24th, 2007. They planned to meet at a local coffee shop, as agreed.
Right.
And the sources mentioned that CCTV footage actually captured them briefly conversing while waiting in line for drinks.
Really? What did it show?
Well, the footage, according to the material, showed Lindsay appearing relatively relaxed, but also noticeably taking clear steps back whenever Tatsuya moved too close to her.
Maintaining distance.
Yeah. They apparently sat and talked for just over an hour, and it seemed uneventful.
Okay.
But at the end of the lesson, the sources described Tatsuya awkwardly claiming he'd forgotten his money.
Oh, come on. Really?
Yeah. He told Lindsay not to worry. His apartment was only half a mile down the road, and she could just come by and get it there.
And she went, after the chase, the sketch, everything.
Well, the sources explain why she agreed, despite the obvious strangeness. She hadn't brought her bike that day, and she had work later, needed to get paid and get going.
Okay.
So she took a taxi to his apartment, and critically, she asked the taxi driver to wait for her.
Ah, smart move.
Yeah.
Asking the driver to wait.
Yeah, another safety measure.
So, according to the source material, Lindsay entered the apartment with Tatsuya. But then, several minutes passed, and she didn't come back out. And the taxi driver. The sources say he thought it was a little odd, but figured maybe she'd changed her mind about needing the ride or something.
Yeah.
Eventually, he just left. And apparently, completely forgot about waiting for her.
He forgot. Wow, that detail becomes hugely significant, doesn't it?
It's absolutely devastatingly significant.
And that's when the worry, initially maybe a low hum started mounting really rapidly.
Yeah.
Lindsay failed to show up for work later that afternoon, totally out of character for her. She didn't return to her apartment either.
Her roommates must have been worried.
Yeah, alerted by her absence at work, they reported her missing to the police that night. But the worry amplified drastically when it reached her family back in the UK. They were panicked by the sudden radio silence.
Of course.
The real alarm bells went off on Monday after she missed a second day of work. Her school contacted her parents, who immediately contacted the police again, pushing the investigation into high gear.
Okay, so now it's serious.
Right. The intensified police search efforts began at Lindsay's home. And the crucial breakthrough, the sheer stroke of luck described in the sources, came from her housemates.
What do they have?
They had the one key piece of evidence that sketch Lindsay had kept.
The sketch he drew of her.
Yeah, with Tatsuya's name written on it.
Wow. Okay, that's huge.
Massive.
So based on that name, 2 officers were dispatched to Tatsuya's home around 5:40 p.m. They knocked, but got no answer.
Okay.
However, his neighbors were home, and in a really significant detail mentioned in the sources, kindly allowed the officers to look from their balcony into Tatsuya's living room.
They could see inside.
Yeah, no lights on, but they saw someone lurking inside. And here's the really strange part. They saw a detachable bathtub, the kind usually kept in the bathroom, had been moved out onto his balcony.
The bathtub was on the balcony.
Yeah.
It's incredibly weird.
Very weird.
Yeah.
And this prompted the 2 officers, on a hunch that Lindsay might be inside, possibly being held against her will, to call for backup immediately.
Good call. So how many officers came?
Within the hour, 7 more officers arrived, bringing the total to 9 police officers surrounding the building.
9 officers, okay.
The sources described the scene. 3 hours later, with 9 officers positioned, they were preparing to raid Tatsuya's home.
Right. They're ready to go in.
But then, in a moment, that became just a major point of scrutiny and frustration later. Tatsuya opened his front door, holding a rucksack.
He just came out.
And simply stormed past the line of police.
What? Past 9 officers? How?
Officers tried desperately to grab him, but they only managed to get hold of his rucksack. Tatsuya himself slipped right through their grasp.
But how could that happen?
The sources highlight a few things. The narrow, confusing hallways of the building might have contributed. And critically, the fact that the police officers lacked any radio equipment to coordinate their movements effectively.
No radios in that situation.
Apparently not. He just vanished into the night.
Unbelievable.
And the scene police discovered when they finally entered his apartment is horrific.
Yeah.
Just graphically detailed in the sources.
What did they find?
Lindsay Hawker's naked body was found buried in that detachable bathtub on the balcony.
Oh my God. Buried in the tub.
Yeah. The tub was filled with a mixture of sand and soil, almost completely covering her body. Only her right hand was visible emerging from the surface.
That's horrifying.
The sources detail she had been bound and gagged using plastic ties and scarves. Bruises were found across her upper body, clearly indicating she'd been subjected to a prolonged and violent assault.
Just awful.
And there were more disturbing details found throughout the apartment and in the tub itself. Her possessions were scattered, hinting at a struggle. A decomposing agent had been placed in the tub.
To speed up decay.
Presumably, yeah. And perhaps most chillingly, flower seeds were placed on top.
Flower seeds, why?
To disguise the bathtub as a flower bed. The sources grimly note the implication. The seeds would eventually feed off Lindsay's body.
That is beyond disturbing. Just calculated evil. And there was one detail that really stands out in the sources for its sheer bizarreness.
What's that?
Tatsuya had shaved all of Lindsay's hair off her head.
Shaved her head.
Why? We don't know for sure. But adding to the strangeness, police also discovered several wigs in the apartment.
Wigs.
Yeah. This led to initial rumors, mentioned in the sources, that maybe he was a crossdresser and, disturbingly, that he could have killed her with the intention of using her hair as a wig.
Good grief.
While the motive for the haircutting was never definitively stated, it just adds this profoundly unsettling, bizarre layer to the whole crime.
So the very next morning, Tatsuya Ichihashi was officially declared Japan's most wanted man.
Right. Posters everywhere, news coverage.
Exactly. Wanted posters with his face distributed everywhere, his image plastered across news outlets. Police conducted numerous raids based on possible sightings.
But despite this massive effort, the sources describe him seemingly vanishing. Like a ghost.
Just go.
Hardly any credible sightings were reported, those that were turned out to be dead ends. The frustration grew so high, the police even resorted to releasing photoshopped images of him wearing different wigs.
Trying anything at that point.
Yeah.
Grasping at straws.
Yeah.
And this period of him being at large for years was just immensely painful and frustrating for Lindsay's family. You can only imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
The sources detail their relentless pain over their loss and also their growing feeling that the Japanese police investigation was becoming, well, lazy and ineffective.
And here's where the sources highlight the extraordinary lengths Lindsay's parents went to. It's incredible.
What do they do?
Just months after her death, they traveled to Japan and essentially took it upon themselves to keep her story and the search for her killer in the public eye.
They went over there themselves.
Yeah. Her father, Bill Hawker, in a truly remarkable and maybe desperate move described in the sources, he even met with members of the Japanese mafia, the Yakuza, in a bar.
Met with the Yakuza.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Seriously. Reportedly gave them whiskey and, in a plea for help, asked them if they could use their network to find Ichihashi.
Wow. That shows incredible desperation and determination.
Isn't it?
Meanwhile, the Japanese police faced intense scrutiny from within Japan internationally.
Understandably.
Questions were raised about that initial escape. How could 9 officers let one man slip away? There were also questions about perceived delays and questioning vital witnesses early on.
And the wanted poster photo, too, right?
Yeah, the decision to use an outdated photo for so long. Arguments reportedly arose between the police and the Hawker family. The case became a major focus for both British and Japanese media.
A huge international incident.
Absolutely. All the while, Tatsuya was still out there, incredibly.
Right.
The sources paint a picture of his life, constantly moving across vast stretches of Japan, from Aomori way up in the north down to Okinawa in the south.
Just drifting around.
And the sources reveal he sometimes lived on remote islands, literally hiding in abandoned concrete bunkers to avoid detection.
In bunkers. Just hiding out.
Yeah.
From 2008 through 2009, the sources place him in Osaka. He reportedly lived in internet cafes.
Which is common for transient people in Japan, right?
Yeah, cheap temporary shelter. And he worked on construction sites to earn money.
Okay, so he was finding ways to get by.
But he used that money, along with engaging in truly horrific acts of self-mutilation, specifically to change his appearance and avoid capture. This is one of the most shocking details from the sources.
Self-mutilation? How?
They describe him cutting off his own moles, using scissors to cut part of his lower lip,
Oh my God.
and even sewing a thread through his nose to alter its shape.
He did that to himself. With scissors and thread.
That's what the sources report. Alongside this self-inflicted damage, he was saving money specifically for actual plastic surgery.
Wow. The desperation is just extreme.
Totally. By the summer of 2009, the authorities were, understandably, described as desperately seeking a breakthrough.
They needed something.
The National Police Agency significantly raised the cash reward for information leading to his arrest from 1 million yen up to a staggering 10 million yen.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Over $100,000 US back then.
Huge incentive. And crucially, they also released a new statement advising the public that it was strongly believed Tatsuya had undergone plastic surgery to alter his face. They urged people to look for resemblances or his remaining distinguishing marks.
So, putting the word out, he looks different now.
Exactly.
And the sources confirm that this combination, the increased reward and the updated information about plastic surgery, it finally worked.
The breakthrough.
In October 2009, a plastic surgeon in Nagoya contacted police. He strongly believed he had recently treated Tatsuya Ichihashi.
The surgeon recognized him, or suspected him.
Suspected him based on the alerts, yeah.
And here is perhaps Tatsuya's single biggest, most foolish mistake detailed in the sources.
What did he do?
He incredibly agreed to take before and after photos of his operation.
No. Why would he do that?
Vanity. Stupidity. Who knows? But these photos were then shared with the police and, once released, with the entire world.
Well, that's game over.
Pretty much.
The sources state unequivocally that the release of these photos completely blew his cover. A colleague who had worked with him at a construction site in Osaka instantly recognized him from the new images.
Knew it was him, even with the surgery.
Yeah.
So knowing his face was now public knowledge, even the new face, Tatsuya understood he had to flee Osaka fast.
Had to run again.
His plan, according to the sources, was to head south, back to Okinawa, to hide in those abandoned concrete bunkers he'd used before.
Going back underground.
He attempted to make his escape by heading to the Osaka ferry port on November 10th, 2009.
Trying to catch a ferry to Okinawa.
Looks like it.
But his luck, after over 2.5 years on the run, it finally ran out. Right there at the port.
What happened?
A worker at the ferry port recognized him instantly from the widely distributed new photos.
No one saw him.
Yeah, and informed security right away.
So he was confronted by officers right there.
Right there. The sources recount the moment. He knew it was over. When they asked for his name, he didn't deny it.
He admitted it.
He admitted, yes, I am Tatsuya Ichihashi. He was formally arrested on the spot.
Wow. After all that time, 2.5 years.
Finally caught.
So the legal process then began.
Right. Initially, he was charged just with abandoning a body, which was the immediate crime they found at the scene.
Okay.
But later, 2 more warrants were served for the crimes of rape and murder. It took quite a while, though 8 months, for his trial to actually begin. Started July 4, 2011.
And the outcome regarding guilt seemed pretty certain, right? Given the evidence, his eventual confession.
Yeah, guilt wasn't really the question.
But the focus of the trial, the sources explain, was heavily on the punishment, because Japan does have the death penalty.
Right, but it's not commonly applied for single-person murders, the sources note.
However, given how high-profile this case was, there was significant public interest and apparently considerable support for the death penalty for him.
Understandable, given the circumstances. And during the trial, Tatsuya confessed in detail.
He confessed to everything.
The sources state he admitted it. He enticed Lindsay into his apartment, he raped her, and then he strangled her because he feared neighbors would hear her scream and call the police.
She's cold.
Yeah.
The verdict was delivered on July 21st, 2011. Tatsuya Ichihashi was sentenced to life imprisonment.
Life, not death.
Not death. The court's reasoning for not imposing the death penalty, despite Lindsay's family explicitly requesting it.
Which they did, very publicly.
Yeah. The reasoning was based on factors presented during the trial, which the sources highlight him having no previous criminal convictions.
Right, the earlier assault was settled out of court.
His age at 32, and interestingly, a perceived chance of rehabilitation.
A chance of rehabilitation after everything.
That was the court's view, according to the sources, and that decision was definitely a major point of discussion afterwards.
I can imagine. And the trial itself.
Yeah.
The sources describe its devastating impact on Lindsay's family.
Oh, absolutely heartbreaking.
They were forced to relive her final, terrifying moments in court. They were also shown new images of Lindsay's body, something the sources note they later deeply regretted seeing.
God, that's awful. No family should have to go through that.
No.
After the sentencing, Lindsay's parents gave this really powerful statement to state media that the sources included.
What did they say?
They spoke of the agonizing wait for justice, 4.5 years. They conveyed their continued love for Japan, actually, stating the country has not let her down.
Wow, even after everything.
Yeah. And they spoke directly about Ichihashi's actions, with words that just cut deep. You have taken away a precious life, destroyed a whole existence, and stolen countless memories from us.
Just devastating words.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah.
And the public reaction to the verdict, the life sentence.
Based on the sources, it was largely positive in Japan. Most people seemed to welcome the life sentence as a fitting outcome.
Okay.
And then, in a truly unexpected and, for many, I think, deeply unsettling move, before the trial even concluded, Tatsuya authored and published a book.
He wrote a book while awaiting trial for murder.
Yeah, titled Until I Was Arrested. In it, he provided a full confession to the murder and detailed his entire 2.5 years on the run, describing how he managed to avoid detection.
He detailed his escape methods in a book.
Everything.
That's unbelievable, profiting off his crime.
Well, the book was surprisingly successful, sold over 100,000 copies worldwide. And the sources note he offered to give all the royalties and profits from the book to Lindsay's family.
He offered the money to her family.
Yeah. But the family, understandably, rejected the offer completely.
Of course they did.
They saw it as this strange, almost perverse attempt at a good deed that could never, ever bring their daughter back.
Yeah, blood money, essentially. How could they accept that?
Exactly. The sources, in their summary of Lindsay's life and loss, they just reiterate that she was well-loved, successful, cheerful, irreplaceable.
Just a bright young woman with her life ahead of her.
Yeah. Having an incredible experience abroad, contributing positively by teaching. And tragically, her innate kindness, that willingness to help a stranger, even a strange one,
Like giving him that glass of water.
was used against her by what the sources rightly call a strange, heartless man. She is, the sources conclude, daily missed by her parents, her sisters, and all of her friends.
Such a senseless loss.
Okay, so we've really taken a deep dive into this case, following the threads laid out in these sources, from, a young woman pursuing her dreams,
Yeah.
to a truly disturbing crime, an unprecedented manhunt, marked by these incredibly bizarre details: the bathtub burial, the shaving of her hair, the self-mutilation, the book, and finally, this complex resolution in the Japanese courts.
This deep dive, drawing on these sources, it really shows us several difficult but important things, I think.
Yeah.
It starkly highlights the vulnerability inherent in simply trying to navigate a new place, even for someone smart and capable. It shows the almost unbelievable lengths a person might go to evade consequences for their actions. His self-mutilation is just extreme.
It really is.
And it underscores the heavy, enduring toll such crimes take, not just on the immediate victims and their families, but on communities across borders, demanding years of relentless pursuit for justice.
Yeah, there are so many facets to consider here. From that initial unsettling encounter that just screamed predatory calculation, to the years of evasion fueled by desperation and that bizarre physical transformation, and the family's just relentless pursuit of accountability. It's draining even to recount.
It is. And the sources leave us with a significant point for reflection, especially in their description of the court's final decision.
The life sentence versus death penalty reasoning.
Exactly. They noted the court weighed factors like Tatsuya's age and, crucially, a perceived potential for rehabilitation against the horrifying nature of his actions and his extreme calculated efforts to evade capture.
Which included disfiguring himself and then writing a book about it all.
Right. So what does this case prompt you, the listener, to think about? How do societies weigh punishment against the potential for genuine change after someone has committed such horrific acts?
Yeah.
And how do we even measure true repentance, especially in the face of such extreme actions and calculated evasion, even that strange book offer? It's a complexity raised directly by the source material that is absolutely worth mulling over.